to the Scary Darkroom. Hey guys, tonight we step deep into the heart of Bavaria, where an ancient chapel hides a story that locals whisper only in hushed voices. It is a place untouched by time, cloaked in silence, and guarded by something unseen. The tale I'm about to tell you is not folklore. It is a true account that lingers in the memories of those who dared to step inside. It's known simply as the story of the silent bell. Before we get deep into the story, take a moment to like and subscribe to the video. And while you're at it, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it where you are right now? The chapel stands on the edge of a forest, a short walk from a road no longer marked on modern maps. The stone walls are crumbling, the roof warped, but its bell tower still juts up into the sky like a broken tooth. The bell inside, black with age, hasn't rung in hundreds of years. The villagers in the nearby town say it cannot ring. Not that it is broken, but that it is forbidden. According to locals, during the 1600s, the bell last rang when plague swept through Bavaria. It tolled on its own in the middle of the night, long after the priest had been buried. The sound carried across the valley, waking entire villages. The next morning, they say, the dead outnumbered the living. From then on, the bell was bound with heavy iron chains. Yet, when people passed by at night, they sometimes heard the faint sound of it tolling, as if from deep underground. In recent years, the chapel became a destination for travelers and explorers. One of them was a young photographer named Lucas. He had heard about the place from an old man at a tavern who swore he had seen shadows moving inside, even though the windows were boarded shut. Lucas laughed it off at first, but his curiosity pulled him in. He wanted the perfect photo series, something that would set his portfolio apart. He never came back. The search party found his car parked near the tree line. His camera bag was missing, and his phone was left on the passenger seat. No sign of him, no footprints, no broken branches to show which way he had gone. Just silence and the distant shape of the chapel in the mist. Months later, another group decided to investigate, hoping to make a documentary about the legend. There were 3 of them, 2 filmmakers and a sound engineer. They packed heavy lights, microphones, and cameras. They were confident, almost cocky, joking that they would finally prove how ridiculous these ghost stories were. When they arrived, the first thing they noticed was how unnaturally quiet the forest became as they approached the chapel. No birdsong, no rustle of leaves, not even the buzz of insects. The closer they got, the heavier the air felt, as though the trees themselves were holding their breath. By the time they reached the chapel doors, all 3 admitted feeling dizzy. Inside, the air was damp and cold, far colder than the autumn evening should have been. The walls were covered in patches of black mold. A faint smell of iron hung in the air, metallic and sharp, like old blood. Their footsteps echoed unnaturally loud against the stone floor, even though the space was small. One of them, the sound engineer, muttered that the acoustics were wrong, as if the building was swallowing sound instead of carrying it. They set up their equipment, pointing one camera directly at the chained bell in the tower. The chains looked ancient, rusted, and fused into the metal of the bell itself. But here was the strangest part. The clapper The piece that should strike the bell was missing entirely. It had been hacked out, leaving only jagged scars. And yet, the legend said it still rang. Hours passed. They filmed interviews, explored the grounds, and laughed nervously at every creak and gust of wind. Midnight came, and they were growing tired. Then, without warning, every piece of equipment shut off at once. Cameras, lights, microphones, dead. Even their flashlights dimmed until the chapel was swallowed in near total darkness. And then it came. A single low toll of the bell. They froze. The sound was deep and hollow, vibrating through the stone floor and into their bones. It should have been impossible. The clapper was gone. The chains were tight. And yet, the bell had rung. The sound engineer swore it wasn't just ringing, it was resonating like a voice. Not words exactly, but a pattern, something that seemed almost alive. The filmmakers wanted to run, but the doors would not budge. They pushed, pulled, even slammed their shoulders into the wood, but it stayed locked from the inside, as though something outside held it shut. Another toll, louder this time, so loud the walls seemed to tremble. Dust drifted down from the ceiling beams. The iron chains rattled, even though no wind moved through the chapel. One of the filmmakers clutched his head, screaming that it was inside his skull, that he could feel the sound drilling into him. In the confusion, they heard footsteps, not theirs. Slow, deliberate, coming from the darkened corner near the altar. They swung their dim lights toward it, but the beams flickered and died. The footsteps grew closer, heavy against the stone, and then stopped only a few feet away. What they saw, what little the weak light revealed, was a shadow taller than any of them, stretched unnaturally against the wall, but with no body to cast it. Its head was bowed, as if listening. Then the bell tolled again, and the shadow lifted its head. The sound was no longer outside them. It was inside their chests, pressing against their ribs, vibrating in their teeth. One of the men collapsed, blood running from his ears. They tried again to force the doors, clawing at the wood until their fingernails cracked. When the sound came a fourth time, it was so loud that the windows shattered, spraying glass inward. The last recording from their backup camera, a device left outside the chapel, caught their screams, the toll of the bell, and then silence. When locals came searching days later, they found the chapel empty. The equipment was scattered on the floor, warped and melted as if exposed to heat. There was no trace of the three men. Only one thing had changed. The chains on the bell were broken, lying in pieces on the ground. The bell itself hung freely again, though the clapper was still missing. Since then, hikers and travelers passing near the chapel at night swear they hear the bell. Sometimes it tolls once, sometimes 3 times, sometimes more. But those who claim to have heard it say the sound does not come from above in the tower. It comes from within them, echoing in their bones, vibrating in their blood, like the chapel itself has reached inside and claimed a part of them. The silent bell has not been removed, nor has the chapel been sealed. Some say the government ignores it, fearing what would happen if they touched it. Others whisper that each toll is not just a sound, but a soul being swallowed, pulled into the hollow of the bell where it waits, heavy with centuries of voices. And if you ever walk in the forests of Bavaria on a misty night, and you hear a low, heavy ringing in the distance, do not follow it. Do not even look toward it, because once you hear the silent bell, it already knows your name. If this story chilled you, don't forget to subscribe to the Scary Darkroom for more terrifying tales.